refuse to condemn Candace's truly vicious attacks, and some of them are speaking here, are guilty of cowardice. Yes, cowardice.
Ben, I've known you a long time, bro, that you can't handle the truth. Let's face it, Ben Shapiro is the farthest thing from MAGA.
So in this clip, we're going to watch Scott Jennings take down the whole panel when they're talking about MAGA and the infighting that's been going on in MAGA. The reason why I kind of skipped ahead is because with the music, you already know. So in this clip, we're going to watch CNN panelists try to tell you what's going on with MAGA. And I'm already going to be on Scott Jennings' side because I should probably not give that up. I have my issues with some of the infighting in MAGA, but because, again, CNN panelists are so woke and so ridiculous, Scott Jennings is going to get the chance to destroy, shred, and demolish these woke CNN panelists about the so-called infighting inside MAGA. Let's go ahead and get right into it.
Out into the open, our panel is back. Scott Jennings, this is at the Turning Point USA conference in Phoenix, and the root of this is Israel and the split inside the MAGA movement over whether it's appropriate to elevate people like Nick Fuentes the way that Tucker Carlson did. How do you understand what we're seeing play out here? I mean, because they were talking specifically about Ben Shapiro, who's been, very defensive of Israel and critical of the Nick Fuentes situation.
Yeah, it also had to do with Candace Owens, who Shapiro directly went after in his remarks, and her posture on the conspiracy theories that she has promoted since Charlie Kirk was murdered, which then ultimately led to her having to meet with Erica Kirk, a grieving widow, who I think has put through a terrible time here. I mean, you've got a grieving widow with little kids trying to take over her husband's organization, and Candace is out here effectively trying to monetize that.
I'm pretty sure they asked Scott Jennings about Nick Fuentes, so apparently in this clip, I'm going to just have to be bad at everybody on the panel because I'm pretty sure that CNN just asked him about Nick Fuentes. They asked Scott Jennings about Nick Fuentes, and Scott Jennings is like, well, he just didn't even touch it and went straight to Candace Owens. I am not a Candace Owens fan. I'm not some huge fan of Candace Owens. However, I really don't even, I'm so exhausted with this debate. I've had people tell me as a nurse that it is okay to watch somebody bleed out and not try to pack a wound. So with that said, people can feel how they want about it, but I'm sorry. Like, I don't believe in everything that's told to me. And also, too, Erica Kirk has decided to become CEO. Obviously, the board backed her on this of Turning Point. So she, you're available for questions. Like, Erica Kirk went on some town hall with Barry Weiss and telling people to stop and do all these, facial expressions and stuff. It seems like she's calmed down since after the holidays. I haven't seen Erica Kirk in a while. So there's that. But, yeah, Scott Jennings, why are you not answering the question at hand? I think that is what I'd like to know is how do you feel about Nick Fuentes? But okay.
For her own personal self-aggrandizement up to and including forcing a meeting, I think it's pretty crazy. I don't personally like all this infighting myself, but on the issue of Israel and on the issue of whether we're going to platform anti-Semitism or platform Holocaust deniers, I know where I am, and that is we're a political party, not a sponge, and we don't have to soak up everything that oozes in under the door.
How do you,
That's all I heard. Sorry. Sorry, guys. Just I guess you guys can already see my biases. It's like, we're not going to platform Yo, man, I've never seen the wokeness. This is why it's disgusting for me with MAGA. I find not, not regular folk, right? But these MAGA representatives, it's a different kind of woke. It's like, well, we could be as racist almost as we want, right? Which is fine. I don't care. Because I've been told to get over slavery, right? Which I actually have. To be honest, I don't connect with it. I don't, right? But when it's other things, it's like, we're not going to platform that. So you can tell me to forget about slavery, right? But we can't platform other things, right? Okay.
The Candace Owens thing that you mentioned, you saw Megyn Kelly there, you saw Steve Bannon there, other figures essentially siding with Candace Owens, right? Over Ben Shapiro, no? Why?
I don't know. It's somewhat complicated to me with these personalities and their interplay. I know this. Platforming and absorbing hateful ideologies and conspiracy theories especially regarding Charlie's murder, are the opposite of helpful, and certainly the opposite of what I would consider to be in good taste, good form.
The challenge that an organization like Turning Point is facing is that on an issue like Israel, or really any foreign policy issue, there are massive generational divides within the Republican Party. Things that for an older generation, support of Israel were sort of taken for granted. Of course, yes, this was our position. Younger conservatives very much do not fall in line with that view. They are quite critical in many cases of Israel. And the problem is, how do you allow for a broad range of debate about what is acceptable foreign policy in the Middle East that does not wind up playing footsie with the worst of the worst and these terrible ideologies that have no place being anywhere associated with conservatism? And that,
well, you know what, sis comes a little closer to making a better argument than Scott. Because that word anti, I just know that it's a mutable word, a mutating word. You know what I'm saying? The rabbi said that it's a mutating word. So anything can be anti, right? Being America First is technically anti, right? But I do at least appreciate the fact that she's making it clear that young conservatives are they're like, yo, man, I'm moving on, bro. I'm not gonna keep being made to feel bad about something that I didn't do, okay? Why is this tool closing his eyes like that? I already know the kind of argument that Bakari Sellers is gonna make if he even shows up on this clip.
that's what you're seeing them hash out, is where do you draw that line?
I think what we're seeing is, respectfully, and I want to just pile on the Republican Party right now and say they're ripping each other apart, but I'm not sure most of the Republican base or most of America even cares what's happening in Phoenix with Turning Point USA. I think that the Republican base is what it is. There are issues about how we can afford X, Y, and Z. There are issues of like necessary issues of whether or not we're invading Venezuela, whether or not we're going to war, what a war on drugs looks like. I don't think that many people are worried about Ben Shapiro or Candace Owens, and I think that a lot of them, I'm friends with Ben, but I think that a lot of these individuals have a false sense of self. I think that's what you're seeing right now. And I don't think that there is a pulling apart as much as it is you have these personalities like every party has that are just having, they want to rise to the top. So I wish this was something we could pounce on. I just don't find it to be that.
I'm not so sure, but I do think it's important to call out, which Scott did, and I let the record reflect. I agree with Scott Jennings that allowing these kinds of Merry Christmas, Scott, or maybe not. Maybe for you it's not a good thing.
No, it's coming up.
I do think it's important to acknowledge that this is not just a policy difference that they're debating. I mean, they're debating whether allowing an open Hitler apologist, Holocaust denier, to be a prominent voice in the MAGA movement, whether that's acceptable or not. And Megyn Kelly also, by the way, is somebody who said just a few weeks ago that Jeffrey Epstein sleeping with 15-year-olds wasn't really pedophilia. So I think there are more important cultural issues here that MAGA has to grapple with than just purely a policy debate.
First of all, I find this to be hilarious. So, because they won't say Nick Fuentes' name, like they almost make it seem like it's Megyn Kelly who is the apologist, who's like the denier and everything else, because they won't say Nick's name. So that's why it's sounding like that, and it's actually kind of funny to listen to. It is weird to me. Look, at the end of the day, what I will say is Scott Jennings made the weaker points, like, on the basis of Israel, well, we're not going to allow, nasty things. Like, what are you talking about? There are young people who said they've had enough. They're not doing it anymore. They're not. And shout out to them. Shout out to them for saying that. Because I'm totally with it. I'm America first. Unapologetically, I'm America first. I am. So with that said, the realities of what comes with that is just, focusing on your own country first. And, well, you can't be a Ben Shapiro's favorite country person if you focus on your own country first, because they look at that as some sort of like, people like Ben Shapiro will look at that as some sort of hate. You know how many times I get accused of this hate. It is getting tired. And I will say, Bakari Sellers, like, he's just there to whitewash. I think, first of all, I don't know who told him to have this look. I'm sorry. I'm just, I don't know. Who said to Bakari that this was a good idea to do face in here. Like, sorry, y'all gonna see my biases so much. I don't care because I can't stand weak people. I don't think anybody really cares about what's going on Turning Point USA. Everybody got other, which is kind of true, but he would never. You see how I said, I was like, you know, like whatever, like I moved on from slavery, like stuff like that or whatever, but why is it that it's easy to tell people to forget about that past or to, you know, or to find the nuance in that past, but we can't do it with another past, right? We can't do it with another event. We always have to take that event at face value completely with everything I said, and we don't, we're the worst people in the face of the planet. Bakari Sellers would never make that argument. And then he goes on to even add on more. I'm friends with Ben Shapiro. I love him. Like, I mean, it's like, whoa, okay, calm down. You know what I mean? You could definitely like, mount off. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, the whole thing, like, everybody's so scared. It's, you know, walking on eggshells. The only reason why my words aren't fully 100%, like, I don't say everything is because it will, you know what happens with the transcript. If you don't know, you'll find out. That's the only reason why. But if you catch me in person or whatever on Twitter, I'll tell you exactly how I feel. After October 7th, I will tell you what happened with me, with MAGA, which is one of the main reasons why I didn't vote for Trump, is because when I saw the split and how people were quick to go woke for that situation, for these people and the way they were acting, I was like, wait a second. Like, I thought like we didn't care about words like racism and NTS and stuff like that. And it's like, no, we don't care about words like racism, right? But then they left me at the I don't care about words like NTS, and I don't. I don't. Like, I'm just like, speak. As long as nobody's getting hurt. But say what you need to say. That's how I am. So that's why I was like, oh, this ain't it. And then, you know, Trump stood on a stage full of these flags and saying that he was going after anti-S people, you know what I mean, threatening kind of like a war with Iran. Look at where we're at today. No, sir. This was not the MAGA movement that I stood in line for and everything for that. Over it. And so now it's just like the Christ movement, and that's it. I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye.